who you are. I'll say we're here, and you can tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we can get into it. So thank you so much for sitting down with us today. We really appreciate you talking to the GPS Battle for the Waves team. We're here at the New America Foundation with Michael Calabrese. And do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do here?
Sure. The New America Foundation is a nonprofit, nonpartisan policy institute based here in Washington, D.C., although we have quite a presence in California as well. And I direct the Wireless Future program, which is part of an open technology initiative that we have here, where we've been trying to promote pervasive connectivity, sort of ubiquitous, affordable broadband everywhere, but particularly based on open technologies, more open spectrum, and open networks.
So speaking of spectrum, how would a company who wants to broadcast on a particular portion of spectrum, can you tell us a little bit about the procedure that they might go through in order to secure a piece of the commercial spectrum for public use?
Okay. Well, right now, they essentially can't because there's, if you want spectrum with, the propagation characteristics that are typical for the sort of things we think about today, like cell phones and smartphones and broadcasting, radio, TV, even satellites. All of the spectrum is assigned to somebody, and so if you're a new company, an entrepreneur, for the most part, if you want access to the airwaves, you'll have to wait until there's an auction of some spectrum that's been reallocated from a previous use to a new use, or you could perhaps get some spectrum by acquiring another company that holds licenses, or through the secondary market for spectrum, which is fairly new and undeveloped, and won't get you, say, a national footprint, but may get you, pieces of spectrum in different parts of the country.
Okay. So is the acquisition of a new company is the way that LightSquared was able to secure a waiver from the FCC for spectrum, or?
Right. So what happened with LightSquared is a new company, and it was founded, I think, really just about a year ago by a venture capital, by a hedge fund, Harbinger Capital. And what they did is they went into in fact, there are two MSS bands, the L band and the S band. So LightSquared is trying to make a go of it in the L band. And in both bands, for the most part, the mobile satellite business has been a flop. So most of the companies have gone bankrupt. So Skyterra was the company that was in the L band that was essentially bankrupt. And in the S band right now you have, for example, the Dish Network, which is owned by Charlie Ergen, attempting to acquire the two MSS companies down there, DBS, ICO, and TerraStar, both of which are in bankruptcy. So it turned out that the mobile satellite business was not very good except for Inmarsat. Inmarsat's been the one company that's been able to make a go of it. And their spectrum is all interleaved with, in the L band, with LightSquared's. So Harbinger Capital acquired the previous company and formed LightSquared. Okay. But all of the frequency assignments are very narrow, and it's like every other frequency assignment is one or the other company. So Inmarsat has half of the L band, and LightSquared has the other half, and it's supposed to be for mobile satellite. So that's where you have this kind of typically almost like a big walkie-talkie type radio, where, say, if you're out in the middle of the desert, you can get a cell phone call routed to you at a fairly expensive price, because you're communicating through the satellite rather than through a cellular ground-based network.
Interesting. So Light Squared had applied to the FCC for a waiver. Can you explain to us what that waiver is for and what it does?
Right, right. So what happened was when Harbinger Capital applied for a license transfer, because remember, you were asking, how can you get spectrum? Well, you can acquire a company that holds licenses, but then you still have to go to the FCC for a license transfer. And they put that on notice for public comment. People can come in and oppose it. And what you need to do is disclose, how you are going to use the spectrum and how that's in the public interest. So they came in and they said, well, we want to have a much more ambitious, we want to take advantage of the fact that since 2003, the FCC has allowed mobile satellite operators to have what's called an ancillary terrestrial component. In other words, that they can use the mobile satellite integrated with ground-based towers and access points, and have a kind of a combined ground-air system, which was originally proposed because it would make the mobile satellite service, like I said, they were all failing. It would make them more successful because they could offer a much more robust service where it would work not just at high cost when you're standing out in the desert, but if you walked into a building, for example, and were out of view of the satellite, then you'd switch over to the ground tower. So what happened was Harbinger was really taking advantage of a particular moment politically that was created by the National Broadband Plan. So when Obama took office and appointed Julius Janikowski as the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, the big first thing he did was to put massive resources behind creating a national broadband plan, which was also mandated by Congress as part of the economic stimulus package in 2009. So the report came out a year ago, almost exactly, and sometimes I jokingly say it's a centerfold of the National Broadband Plan, that spectrum is sexy. And the reason is because probably the biggest recommendation that Janikowski's probably emphasized the most has been that there's a looming spectrum crisis and that we need to free up 500 more megahertz of spectrum because devices like the iPhone and the Android are gobbling up all the spectrum capacity. And so the FCC, for example, last fall put out a study showing that we'll need at least, that mobile data demand is going to grow by at least 35 times over the next 5 years, and that we're running out of airwaves that would accommodate these cellular networks. So there suddenly became this really urgent political push to find more spectrum for the wireless industry, for the AT&Ts and Verizons and Sprints of the world. So in the immediate aftermath of that, Harbinger Capital, the hedge fund, came in and said, well, we see you have this recommendation that the two mobile satellite bands are really being wasted now. They're hardly being used, and that they're really irrationally organized with these interleaved spectral fragments. And so what we'll do is we'll invest billions